Welcome, everybody. Digital Roundtable is on today, February 10th. We have a great event today. I'm excited. The weather is cooperating. We have some massive Arctic North Pole cloud of weather coming south, and everybody's running for cover, but today is a glorious day in Austin. Anyway, and so to let us go in the right direction, I'm going to ask our fabulous Dr. John Butler to get us going on some music. John, would you mind picking up?
Nothing like a little bark.
There you go. Right.
Excellent, excellent. Could listen to that all day.
Excellent. John, how are you today?
I am doing fine in Austin, Texas. As you know, we have a lot going on. The traditional things we've talked about, we have a convergence of trying to do something, of course, with the vaccine. And then we have the going on in Washington, D.C. with the former president and listening to all of the logic. It's almost like a comedy of grand things coming together that we've been concerned with. And then we have all of the stimulus money. So how can you have on one stage, one dramatic stage, an impeachment, the president of the United States, trying to overcome a 100-year-old plus virus, looking at the economy, wondering what the economy would look like, looking at investments in terms of will we go back downtown to our stores, and will I go back to the university? Look at all the research that I'm doing with all of my great data analysis. So as always, it's an interesting time to be alive. And in all of the midst of it, we have to put Americans first. We have to understand what the country's about. We have to continue to provide jobs and provide opportunities. So as always, I'm excited about the future, but this past is bogging me down. When we got rid of the last year, I thought it was gone, but it looks like we drug last year into this year. But I think that
I hear you. I have the same reservations. Llewelyn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm up here in Rhode Island where it has snowed, but it is now beautiful and sunny and a child's paradise. They're skiing, they're sliding down the hills on their pans and sleds and what have you, having a whale of a time. It's a great place for children, especially after the snow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me say hello to our guests, and then I'll introduce him formally for you all. Stefan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm out here in California, so we have the sun shining, no snow.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, and we're excited that you're here. Stefan Wolf is the Global Vice President of Go-to-Market Execution of Industry Business Unit Utilities at SAP, that little company out of Germany. Stefan has been at SAP for a long time, and he's had many roles, including VP of Solutions Management Utilities, Head of Solution Management Order to Cash Utilities, Director of Field Service Utility Solution. He was a development manager, senior software developer, and started his career as a software developer. Stefan holds an undergraduate degree in computer science from the University of Erlangen, Nuremberg, if I'm saying that correctly, I hope.
Yes,
Stefan,
you do.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess I'm posting all of this stuff on LinkedIn, so for the world to see.
Hey, the more people know about you, the better. People get comfortable. It's all about understanding that, usually all our guests like you are superstars, and we are delighted to be able to share. So lots going on. I don't know where to begin other than to tell you that seems like the hoopla of COVID going out of control has gotten managed. I heard that New York is now open for business again. All the numbers are kind of tipping down dramatically, probably 30, 40, 50%. Of course, there is a concern that there will be a Super Bowl hangover at some point. Don't know. We're watching it. Vaccinations are happening. There's been roughly 43 million vaccinations so far. So that's, covers sort of 1/5 of the population is moving in the right direction fairly fast. As we sit here, John Butler and Llewelyn King have been vaccinated for their first round of Moderna vaccinations. And so we're happy that at least two of us have gotten it. Interestingly enough, the market seems to continue to roar, even though there is some trepidations about what's going to happen here with the economy, looming of inflation, talk about price of gasoline and oil going up like crazy because we're shutting down all kinds of things related to fossil fuels. There seemed to be some fumbling going on that, and don't know. I think that's all recoverable. Gasoline prices are kind of steady in Austin, but the price of crude oil keeps climbing up dramatically to $3 in the last 7 days, which is a good thing for the people that do oil and gas, but it's a terrible thing for people who buy goods, and that's what a big indicator for the inflation jitters that may be coming. The jobs in January that were added were 49,000. So, inflation, unemployment, not inflation, unemployment is down to 6.3%. Again, we're still have some 10 million people that don't have jobs, and there's a lot of, the people that may never get back to work and the jobs that they had before. And that's one of the big challenges. So, John, what do you think? I know that you have mixed things, but it seems like the economy and the engines are coming back, and people want to get back to normal. So, where are we?
I don't think we're looking at the science, and I think that opening up is a relative term. I think there's a bit of tiredness in the opening up. I'm not sure if the science would say completely opening up, but I think there's a certain kind of fatigue that's related to policymakers now. So that you see people saying, okay, in Austin here, the number of hospital beds have increased. So we are sort of going to phase 4. So I think that will be with us for a while. And the interesting thing about this is how the public officials, of course, all of a sudden put in the very, very the beam of the light, if you will, because people don't like really for people to tell them much. But in this case, I think that that's happening. On the economy side, again, the stock market is continuing to boom. All of my readings asking, is there a bubble? Are we set for a bubble, whether it's as a housing bubble, whether it's sort of an investment bubble? Will we be thrown into a Great Depression? All of this is taken in the context of job creation. The most significant thing that's being done, of course, is a shift from jobs out of one sector to another. As things become smart, the Internet of Things become smart, jobs are being created. The whole idea of data science is booming with all of the data that we have. So I think, Andre, the big problem here is the bifurcation of people who are working and those who are not working. As a matter of fact, it's reflected in the stock market, which of course is the economy of finance and the real market of goods and services. So we have to figure out how to create certain kinds of occupations. And on top of that, we have a new administration that did a complete roundabout on the relationship between where the planet is, where the jobs are. So of course, when the pipeline was cut, if I were in Europe or if I were in China, I would say, okay, they must need the oil, the petroleum, so we will provide it. So we have a lot going on, and I think that the economy, parts of it will do well, but the big thing is this: how will social people adjust after the pandemic in terms of business model?
Yeah.
Will we go back to the office? Will the university send me to Zoom for my conferences? Will I have meetings with SAP online and on Zoom rather than flying to a great hotel where everybody will be tipped and those kind of things.
Yeah. Llewelyn, how are we doing?
Well, I think that was a very complete summation from Johnny. I think that's very right. Things are changing very quickly. There are a lot of uncertainties, some of which are introduced by a new administration. Let's look at the energy sector, where we've got a tremendous push to do something about global warming almost instantly. We have a new secretary. She knows very little about the subject. The Department of Energy, which she'll be in charge of, Jennifer Granholm. The Department of Energy is really the Department of Science. It's a great archipelago of independent and often unrelated activities, from verifying nuclear explosions to cutting edge science, including work that was done at the national laboratories, 17 of them, on things like the human genome and even working on the virus. She's going to be in charge of a lot, but she seems to think that her assignment is to change the electric utility industry from its basis on fossil fuels, even in nuclear, to a totally renewable world, which in today's parlance means solar and wind. And it is unclear whether that can be brought about or whether it is even desirable. There are questions as we move towards an electrified transportation system about the supply chain of rare earths and other special things like lithium that are needed in great quantities for electric vehicles. We don't know if they're available. General Motors has said it's going totally to electric cars. There's a little rush into this that may cause us to come a cropper. It is unknown. Taking your point about the market is doing well because the things the market measures are doing well. The market does not measure the totality of the people. It measures, as Johnny said so well, those who are working and those who are prospering. And therefore, it is reflecting that. We've seen it before where the market goes one direction and, say, employment goes the other. The market actually doesn't like full employment because it fears inflation. Inflation has been talked about for a while now. We haven't seen it. The oil price, as you correctly touched on, may be a larger contributor to inflation than anything else, or worse, to fears of inflation. This is partly brought about because the Saudis and the Russians have been able to hold together the price, and as long as the producers keep the price up artificially, there is a danger of inflation because the price will continue to climb. If they ever go back to producing flat out, the price will collapse again. That tends to be these days the commodity story of oil. Overall, the rate of invention is enormously invigorating. It is very exciting. It is an extraordinary time in human creativity. How we get that and the benefits of that to the 10 million unemployed and large percentage of the 10 million who may never be employed, that is a big challenge for the administration and for we ourselves as citizens.
Sure. Stefan, how do you see all this impacting the utility industry, what SAP is doing globally? What's COVID done to your company? Anything you can share in your outlooks and insights on that?
Wow, that is there's a wide field of questions. So how many hours do I have here? Yeah, let me maybe give some cliff notes here. What I am seeing. Obviously, we are almost now 1 year here in the pandemic. I think I got into whatever lockdown we want to call it back in March last year, both here in the US as well as my home country in Germany out there. And at that time, everybody expected by summer everything will be over. So right now, I think we would be feeling lucky if by this summer everything is back to some normal out there. So it's much longer than expected. And for utilities, which is obviously my focus here at SAP, I mean, I have to really tip my hat to what they are doing. And I think to some degree, they are the underappreciated heroes also in this story. They keep the lights on, they keep the gas flowing, the water available. If you all work from home, have to homeschool our children, the universities are in essence mostly working from home. So a power outage now has a much more severe impact for the life of the individuals out there than before. And these folks who are maintaining the infrastructure still have to go out, whether there is a new virus coming out or not. So now they can't share trucks because they need to stay away. So they need to drive their own vehicles, more people on the road, more possibilities for accidents they're exposing themselves to. So, and they're doing this to keep us safe, to keep us empowered, to keep us also warm and cozy in our homes. So thanks a lot to the utilities in the world who are doing that out there. And I would see utilities are resilient. I mean, they're used to storms, they're used to disasters out there. Typically, it doesn't happen to all of them at the same time. So this is kind of unique here. So there's no neighborhood help here of just driving around to help with a wildfire or with a hurricane reconstruction effort afterwards. But utilities are resilient in that. What I do see is that I mean, what you touched on it with the changes both in policy as well as in and from a society and driven through the change in energy consumption. They are adjusting much faster, or need to adjust much faster to this new world of the economy. Renewables are coming, and Europe maybe faster on already present. In Australia, New Zealand is already a very common place for electric utilities to offer solar panels, because they know if they don't do that, somebody else will. And they're losing the revenue one way or the other. So why not benefiting from that business out there? So this is from a commercial perspective as well as from a possibility for the utilities, and an interesting market which is opening up now for them to broaden their portfolio, to acknowledge the risk, to acknowledge the challenge which the renewables introduce, but also to not just deal with it, but benefit from that. And I see many utilities who are investing heavily in that, and we touched already a little bit on artificial intelligence and data science and drilling that oil, which this data oil which we have, so the wells which is in the data, to direct this effort to remove more and more of the need for have human actors in there, and letting the automated intelligence help the human intelligence to be smarter in there.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. So, gentlemen, I'm going to rattle a few big changes that happened in the last 7 days, and feel free to pick and give me insights or comments on any of those. Jeff Bezos steps down from Amazon. Does that mean that Amazon is, is done? Is it going to, Steve Jobs steps down? Is it going to, or is Amazon actually going to, go into bigger and better places? I'd love to hear your take on that. Tesla acquires $1.5 billion in Bitcoins, is the only car company that allows Bitcoins as a currency to buy a car. And he's betting on the fact that Bitcoin is going to be the digital currency of the world. Fascinating. At the same time, SpaceX, his other company, is about to introduce Skylink, which is a division that makes the satellite internet broadband capability. He's going to launch a public offering for that company coming soon. And then the last thing that I want to hear from you all, maybe rumors that there is an Apple car coming, an Apple electric vehicle coming. Any thoughts, Llewelyn?
Well, I don't know about Bezos stepping down at Amazon. I would imagine that Amazon has grown so fast and is so extensive and so pervasive that it's probably overdue for an adjustment. An inefficiency goes with size. It is very difficult to have a company that large with that many interests that really one man controls and knows what is going on. I would think that we'll see some, if not radical changes in Amazon. Certainly, I think there'll be some pulling back. Some of the directions they've gone in may not appeal to the new head of the company. And long term, they may not know whether they can sustain the kind of growth. Also, they're going to have a mind to their antitrust position. Amazon is very pervasive. And under this administration, they're likely to be looking at antitrust issues that were not looked at under the last one. So I think you'll see changes in Amazon, but it will remain the nation's shop for the foreseeable future.
Mhm.
I'm very interested in the electric utilities. They're in a great stage of change. I want to ask Stefan, what about hydrogen? Europe is going very quickly into hydrogen, hoping to use the slack, I call it the slack, the overproduction of electricity from windmills, because the wind doesn't always blow in concert with consumption. Is that going to make a difference? Is it going to make a difference in this country? We look at it here, some big utilities like those on the west curve, in Southern California and in Arizona and elsewhere are looking at it as a storage device to store overproduced energy from solar panels. In the Southwest, there is a tremendous duck curve where there's an overproduction of electricity from solar at the wrong time of day. And the only feasible way they can see of putting that into a storage system where there can be a lengthy drawdown. Batteries and other storage systems tend to have a short drawdown, 4 hours or something like that. You may want a drawdown that lasts 2 or 3 days, depending on weather conditions. I'm very keen to hear Stefan speak to that.
Sure. I mean, I think hydrogen is a much better energy storage than lithium batteries are for many reasons. Obviously, hydrogen is not an easy commodity to deal with. It has a high risk. I mean, it can actually really explode, but it is much better once you have figured those out. It's also distributable like a gas, so utilities know how to handle these type of commodities. And already a couple of years ago, up in the east of Canada, we had utilities actually working together with startups to see how can hydrogen storage be used to what you're exactly describing to buffer those renewables, which are not consistently available. We know there's highly unpredictable, and the best forecasting in the world can't change that out there. So I would think that mid to long term, hydrogen will probably be the answer to that. But there is a lot of research which still needs to be required to do this on a large scale, to have it really utility size and ready for the end consumer to use as a safe and reliable storage. But if it does, then we can produce electricity and heat in our home and only producing water as the outcome out there. So that would be, in essence, quite a great goal to achieve to allow that to happen.
Yeah. Johnny, you have any thoughts on my comments? And
Absolutely. I think with the stepping down, Amazon is a solutions company. It's integrating high tech stuff with the solutions. Like Michael Dell started as a solution company, and then he sold that old company and he became Dell Technologies because he bought technologies that related to patents and those kind of things. So I think that Amazon is growing, done a great job in terms of how we deliver stuff, in terms of supply chains, and et cetera. But it's not like a job stepping down from an Apple, where the ideas for new ideas are paramount. So I think the effect would be different. And if you look at those companies where people step down, jobs went back, of course, to Macintosh, to Apple, and reinvigorated that company. But I think Amazon is going to, it's a bit different kind of company. It had great leadership, and it was certainly there in the right place at the right time. in terms of the Apple car, I think that there will be 20 to 30 new automobile producers, because the car that you're driving right now, it has 10,000 parts. The electric car has 4 that makes a difference. So if you look at, there's somebody in Austin right now that's trying to bring the technology. It is a 3D printing where you can print out the frame of a car and just put the electric components to it. So we're switching here in Austin from software, where we cut our teeth and those things, to manufacturing. But manufacturing is not the old manufacturing where we grew up. Manufacturing is 3D printing, getting the right software, looking at material science and how it is developing and those kinds of things. So I think that it's a lot to look forward to in how we move around. Yeah. Andreas, you could go into car manufacturing. If you order the 3D printer with the materials, you could print out the shape of the car, do something to the interior, and you could be a General Motors. So I think there's a lot of interesting things going on, but what we do know is the most interesting thing, we've always had products. It's the smartness of the products.
Yeah.
Look, what's going to really change, if you have an Apple car, I have a friend who has a Tesla now. He came from Florida. We went to Baton Rouge to see the old alma mater play. He told me he did emails all the way from Florida. His car drove itself. And hell, this was 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you look at what's happening with software, and the major thing now would be the storage and the clouds that would take care not only the Internet of Things, but the Internet of people and how we interact with those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be easier now to be CEO. It's hard to fly an old airplane. It's hard to fly an old helicopter.
Yeah.
It's easy to fly these puppies now that they have. You just kind of babysit them.
Stefan, what is the significance of all these electric vehicles coming to bear? What does that mean to the grid? What is SAP touting out there, and how the future gets built?
Yeah, very good question. And obviously, I'm having that utilities view on electric mobility out there, and my partners here at SAP looking after the automotive IVU or the automotive industry. They're obviously looking at that from the OEM angle out there, and we have a public sector business as well. We're looking at this from a smart city perspective. So there are multiple facets to that. For the utilities, obviously there is that impact to the grid. Some, I guess, already experienced. If there are neighborhoods where maybe through the one Tesla showing up out there, suddenly some more are popping up near that one. Once you see your neighbor having one, people feeling, okay, now maybe it's time for myself to do that. And that may actually constitute a problem for if they're all charging at the same time out there. So the grid infrastructure needs to be improved. But we see also, Southern California, Edison and others are doing this right now. They're investing heavily into getting charging station ready infrastructure in place for the communities, whether it is focusing on certain fleets. We're seeing more and more fleets which are being readied for electric vehicles out there. It makes much more sense than the investing in the residential individual electrification of transportation, because it is so distributed. There you have maybe a dozen trucks or more at the same location. You know exactly when they're charging, so it's much easier to balance that out. We just saw from the new administration the order to, in essence, direct the federal administration to buy only electric vehicles going forward out there. I think school transportation will probably be next out there. Again, big fleets, which both increase the stress on the grid out there, but can be also used as a balancing factor if we allow utilities to work with that, if they are part of the equation. If we are not excluding those who make sure that the charging is actually possible from managing or contributing to the overall end-to-end managing of the charging energy flow. because these batteries might be very, very well available during some hours out there for electricity supply, but also, of course, need to ensure that whoever is behind those cars, the business, the schools and whatnot who need those cars, that they're ready in the morning when they need to run.
Stefan, you're exactly right. Andreas and I have been working for the last 4 years on improving the grid. And here's the unstructured problem, we think, that the technology to do that is there on the grid edge. The technology for the loads is there. The technology for Andrea Carvalho to make America smart so we know where everything is going, it is there. But if you're running on a 1922 technology or 1928 technology, and the lights are coming on, the revenue is flowing, and a public partner relationship. You know, you can't disrupt the grid like we can disrupt the car industry. How do you get an industry that is doing extremely well to look into the future and say that although our technology that's years and years old is delivering right now, as you said, when you plug in an automobile, it's not like plugging in a toaster. It's a download for an entire house. So how do we get the grid management, everything that's happening in DC, that's looking now at redoing the grid? How do we get them to interact with the people who really are the heroes and keep the lights on and say, look, although what you're doing now technology-wise is absolutely fabulous, it cannot handle the future as we plug EVs and other things into the grid. How can we do that? When everything's going so well in Sears and Roebuck, how do you change?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the past, often the approach was, let's build it for the maximum consumption, for the maximum demand to be on the safe side. This is not possible in this case. That would be this investment. Nobody will be able to put this up. Nobody will be willing to pay for that. So the smartness needs to come in. Smartness both in where to put what kind of infrastructure improvements in there, what makes sense, how to balance the energy flows in a smart way. We have the technology, as you said. The technology is here. We need to put it into work.
Llewelyn?
I think this is true. I'm not sure that Johnny is quite right that the infrastructure, the utilities is as ancient as he says. It is in some ways. I mean, I look at poles around here that have been there for 50 years, and you wonder that they manage to carry the load they do and that they make it in strong winds, but mostly they do. I think the rate of change, though, is going to be very disturbing to utilities. Political pressure to change, social pressure to change. The move to renewables has been very fast, and I think in some ways has not been fully digested, hence the duck curve. I think we're going to see a great problem in disposing of some of these new generations. We're going towards generating units of very low energy density, away from those with high energy density, which has been the tradition of coal and nuclear. I think it's quite tragic that we are not thinking nuclear and thinking carbon free because of the high density, the lack of other impact on the environment. But that is the direction we're going to go under this administration. It is certainly committed to wind and solar, which are the two enduring contestants for renewable. The best, of course, is probably hydropower, but that has been built out and we're unlikely to get any permission to build another dam. Nuclear, in my view, comes second, but it's having financial problems against solar and against wind. So that the effort is to go to wind and solar, but as I say, there are storm clouds. I'm not sure whether we're going to get the storm, but we've got the clouds. The supply chain, the vulnerability to very rare metals, and they can only be obtained outside of this country. Also, the pressure on lithium as we go to more and more lithium batteries. We may want to stop somewhere. If we do not solve the electric storage problem, we really are going to have a rather expensive and disorganized grid that has too much production at the wrong time of day and too little when you need it. Nothing except hydrogen, and that has all the problems that Stefan mentioned, and some he didn't. Like, it has low energy density itself. It's not as good as natural gas, pound for pound, if you will. It is also a very small molecule, very difficult to handle. You need special plumbing. It tends to penetrate plastic piping and to corrode other things. It's going to be a whole new world of managing hydrogen, but I think production will get cheaper. I think electrolysis will improve, and nothing else offers itself as a truly effective energy storage substance. Certainly all the other ways of storing energy are quite effective, but they're very short term, whether it's pumped storage or anything else. Stefan, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just a journalist looking at this, not a technician.
Well, you know,
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and we're going to have a mixed model, as we said, statistics. I don't, when the wind blows, it's fine. When the sun is out, it's fine. Obviously, we need to have a mixed model of where you are. And as Llewelyn liked to talk about the many components of the electronic industry, mini grids and etc. But it's got to be a mixed model. Sometimes the wind will blow, and that's fine, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes the sun was, and you got to store it. And if you have to use it when it hits the ground, then that is a huge problem. But my understanding is that the science would tell us that we will have batteries soon that will run cities. We have batteries that will go for a long time. So the science might catch up with our problems. But right now, as we move toward the great revolution in electric vehicles, we do have an interesting problem.
Yeah. So there is an interesting happening that just took place this week where Order 2222, which is the aggregation order that allows third-party players to come in and aggregate the distributed energy resources at the edge of the grid, electric vehicles, solar panels, energy storage, all of the above, cogeneration, and play at the wholesale level market. The NERUC, in its current conference, that we're going to lose Llewelyn here in a moment to, that conference and all the regulators are saying to FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, hold on, we need more time. We need a couple more years. We don't know what to do. So clearly, Stefan, Order 841, which is all about having DER be part of the grid, in Order 2222, this whole DER aggregation element. It's an interesting, new opportunity, right? When you're doing the, sort of the meter to cash management, driving the grid, the whole operation side of things, the billing side of things. What's your take from the SAP point of view on what are you all working on as it relates to managing DER, integrating DER into the whole life cycle of a utility?
Oh, we are very much looking forward to that. I think it's the right move. As discussed before, it's very important in this new energy market, energy network environment to have these distributed energy resources available and to manage those. Having an open market on those is the right thing to foster that. That's how this needs to be established with a level playing field for everybody involved in there. And I think that is again where smartness, where data, where integration comes into play to exchange that information as fast as necessary for the players to build that market, for the consumers to benefit from that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's costly. Somebody needs to pay those bills. That happens to all of us through the energy bills we receive. So there needs to be a benefit in some shape or form coming towards us as well out there, as well as an opportunity to maybe even participate in these markets, either through ownership, through providing that. it will be really a net new energy market which is opening up. It's always good for driving innovation out there, which I think is probably the true one source here on this planet, which is not limited. What innovation can do, what ingenuity can do, if there is a potential of doing a solid, good, honest business out of it.
Yeah.
I have to leave you.
Hey, Llewelyn, thank you. Good luck with the NARU guys.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. I apologize, Stefan and Johnny and Andres. It's my fault. I got the time muddled up. Cheers.
No worries at all.
Good
luck with your session. Good luck.
Thank you, Llewelyn.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. So does this mean then that, as we've talked about before, Stefan, that if I am with SAP, then you're gonna get the energy from somewhere and send it from wholesale and send it to me retail? Does it mean that Amazon is going to do the same thing? Does it mean that Apple is going to do the same thing? Does it mean that my students will come in and create another company that can actually purchase the energy? But the question is, where is the energy coming from? As we democratize the whole idea of the flow of energy. So Andreas and I can visualize that Amazon will be a utility, or that Apple will be a utility, or that SAP will be a utility.
Indeed, and I mean, for example, I know for a fact Google has a retailer license as a utility. They're running their own power plants because they need tons amounts of energy for their data center. So does Apple, so does Amazon for the AWS services and whatnot. So yeah, I think like we have large industrial plants which always had their own energy production because they knew they needed that amount of energy. Now they probably had it a bit easier because they knew exactly where their plant was and it would be staying there ideally for 50, 100 years or whatnot. And Amazon or Microsoft or any of these cloud providers, or data center providers, I should say, don't know where they build out the data centers next. But they also know, like many other companies, they do want to come to a more sustainable economy. Many of them have a desire to go carbon-free if not already now, maybe very soon. So they're looking for those possibilities of getting that energy with the least amount of impact to society. So they are actually, I think, would be looking very much into these possibilities in creating that energy themselves or trading that energy for their use. And yeah, I mean, why shouldn't an SAP or a Walmart or an Apple become an energy player out there? Nothing wrong with that. And I think that will only be in help the overall market. It is a challenge for utilities. I fully acknowledge that. They need to be put in a position to work with that because they still are the ones who are distributing the energy. So they still need to make this whole energy network tick. And that is often underestimated how complex that is. Yeah. Telecommunications is sometimes used as an example. That is easy. Data bits and bytes are flowing much more easily than electrons which are needed to not just run a house but run a business out there or gas or water for that matter. So that is the challenge to do this in a sustainable way which actually helps all of these players.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can look to the banking industry where, you know, if you had the revenue, you could become a bank. So if you look at a company like Google or Amazon or Microsoft, they can be anything that they want to be because folks in management know that all companies are moving onto systems. They're all moving onto clouds. They're all moving onto platforms. So in a real sense, if I'm a Google and I already have lots and lots of customers that's dedicated, why not? Why not become a utility? Why not become a quote common carrier? Why not do like the insurance companies did and everybody went into banking? Because to go into banking, you just need a platform and the revenue and some experts. So it's very exciting times as the models move forward in the business world.
Yeah. Stefan, there are some clear powering technologies that are enabling this digitization and digitalization, right? So telecom, 5G, IoT, and then on the software side, the cloud and AI. What is SAP's view of all these as it comes, as it takes the sort of this 21st century architecture and bringing IoT into the fold and managing all this? Where is SAP pushing? Where are we going to be 5 years from now?
If I would know exactly that, I think I could retire very soon. But yeah, SAP as a software provider and as a company who is enabling, what is it now? I think over 75% of the world's revenue is touched by an SAP system. So transactional revenue, which is being going on in trading out there. So we definitely looking into these enabling technologies. A lot of our solutions are already running in the cloud. We are using cloud providers for their platform. So this is a commodity. I mean, this is also utilities were very conservative and have also from an infrastructure protection perspective, from a customer data perspective, to look out for the security. But they're moving very strong to the cloud because they see the benefit as a platform for software. IoT in utilities, and Andres, you probably know this better than anybody. We're doing this since almost decades now, whether it's smart grids, smart meters out there, reaching even beyond the meter to integrate those components. Here, it is really about making it easier for someone like a utility who on the one side may need that information just for billing purposes or for customer services purposes, but also to plan their business better. If I know as a utility when my customers are charging their, like you said, your friend has a Tesla, which is really with large batteries. At the moment, one of these cars which draws a lot of energy when they're fully charging. In 5 years, we have probably 50 of these type of vehicles on the market out there, which people can purchase, which have large batteries, which need a huge amount of energy over a short time in order to fill those cars up. So if I know that, if I can plan this better, this helps me tremendously in both my grid management, my energy purchasing even, and so forth. So that is what we are looking for at SAP. How can we make this data available? How can we provide the access to our customers to these systems, to these networks, to that information, and turn this into insights which lead to action. So not just provide the data, but it needs to be prepared. And the executives today, they're looking for intelligent guidance from the system, not just, okay, here is a report, now you have to figure out what this means. We know from the past what this can mean, and this is where we're trying to help to provide the right decision from a solution perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're looking at business models. I can even envision, if you have all the data on the household, if you know when lights come on at night, maybe you could sell that to insurance companies because those batch of houses might have a medical problem. That is, if the light comes on at 12:30 in the morning all of the time, you would have all the information on the opening of doors. You would have all of the habits that people do. And, unlike, say, physics, where we have lots of models, we need theory to guide us. That is, we have to really get into not only just the data science part of it, but what people do, theoretical ideas of how we are social animals, how people interact with each other, what do we buy? So all of the data that come from the household certainly can be turned into business models that will enhance the ability for the utility companies to create new business models and provide new solutions for many, many industries, including the health industry, including the automobile industry, including the light bulb industry, including the carpet industry, including the music industry, because what goes on in a household will affect the piano. It will affect the refrigerator. When the refrigerator die, if it's smart, you need to go buy another one. It's going to die in 2 months. So I think that business models would come out of this data in rapid fire.
Yeah, it strikes me, gentlemen, that and I see it in the stock market, right? Today we can buy fractional shares and the trading and the transactions that I make with the buying and the selling are zero. I don't get charged for that. And so it makes me wonder, as we're moving into this accelerated digitization that COVID has pushed on us, the notion of everything as a service, my refrigerator as a service. Instead of buying a refrigerator for $2,000, why couldn't I get a refrigerator from Samsung for $20 a month? And they ship it to my house. And if it breaks, they ship me a new one. And the refrigerator is connected to the internet. It orders for me and it does all these things for me. Why couldn't everything that I have in the house, an asset, turn into a service? I mean, it seems fascinating to me, Johnny, that a company like SAP, with their footprint on 75% of all the transactions of the world, with all that intelligence, can you imagine, Johnny, having all that data? And then, or being Google.
I was a consultant for a major insurance company, the best in the world. I don't mind giving a State Farm insurance. I was a major consultant for them. But can you imagine this? Can you imagine that you've got teenagers when they turn 18? Your policy, you got to pay how much? $3,000 a year? Can you imagine this? When you get in the car, just hit the button and we charge you 25 cents a trip, but you're doing it billions of times around the world. So data produces all kinds of business models. Why in the world, why should I buy an automobile?
Right.
So one time we had the go cars around the University of Texas. Wherever you want to go, you jump in one and you drive it and you leave it. So these business models that's coming out of this data, but we have to have smart people to understand how to commercialize the data. The old idea in the old days, garbage in, garbage out. But what data science is now, which is really the old psychology and the sociology work of Auguste Comte, the Frenchman who created social physics back in the 1840s, it is this: how can we make data, just like they did petroleum, the oil, how can we abstract from that data those things that would be useful for business enterprise?
Yeah.
That is a challenge.
Absolutely. And I mean, if I look, at SAP, yes, our software is running all these transactions. That obviously is our customers who are doing that. So SAP wouldn't have access to the data. Utilities have access to a lot of the data their customers producing by looking, for example, at smart meter information. So they actually can see the refrigerator be going bad, the compressor is cycling too often or whatnot. So you can see this information, and under the business models you mentioned, I mean, they're actually around the corner. If you are a competitive retailer, why not offering those appliances which actually consume the energy you sell to the customer as part of the package out there, to take away the investment for the family or the business in these appliances, and also taking care of the maintenance while you are at it. And at the same time, not only controlling your energy consumption as a retailer because you're providing these devices, you have additional revenue streams which offset maybe a solar panel on the roof, which is of course taking away from the daily consumption out there. So in the rental car industry or hospitality industry, if you look at Uber, if you look at Airbnb, this already happened. Somebody came up with the idea, how can I provide this business as a service? This will be no different in other areas. It might take a bit longer because it's not that easy. You're not just running an app and you hail a car through the app. But it's absolutely possible today to do this. And we already have the insight into the data. The key point here is data protection, data privacy. I mean, none of us, I guess, wants anybody spying in our behavior, whether the lights are on in the night or not. That is my business. But maybe if I want somebody to take care of me, if I want somebody to look after my convenience, my safety, my security, whatever it may be, then we can bundle this data, add additional information to that, and now we have these new business models. And I think any job we are losing today, maybe through automation or whatnot, I think we're creating 10 more jobs for each of those through these new businesses.
Right. Can you imagine the smart city? I'm gonna get an Andre's bailiwick now. Can you imagine a city that moved away from just making money on the zoo, or making money on the park, or making money on the swimming pool, to making money on selling the data based on the curbside kinds of data that you get from there, based on what red lights kick off, what poles kick off, and what the utilities kick off. And of course, what makes industries go is advertising. And so if you have a model where you have so much data where you can predict what I'm going to do in the aggregate, not so much me personally, unless of course I create a crime, then I can come in on you with the data. But data in the aggregate, that says the following, going down I-35, X, Y, and Z happens, this would happen, so many people turn on 5th Street, so many people turn on 6th Street. What does this mean for the businesses on 6th Street and 5th Street? Right. What does it mean if I have the data of the number of people who are actually going toward Fredericksburg? What does it mean for those enterprises to prepare? So there are so many different models where cities themselves can create business models to produce revenue and of course to satisfy the needs of the citizens.
Absolutely. And I think that we're starting to see how the dots are connecting, right? In the acceleration is happening. And so, for us, maybe most of you listening, we are in the trenches. We have been working in this industry for 20, 30 years, and we really don't see much of a difference. In fact, what we think in general is that it's going too slow because we wanted to go faster, because we have seen and talking about this vision for a long time, but it's clearly moving very fast. And so in closing, Stefan, when you think about the current challenges and what SAP is providing, can you share a couple of great new deployments? Any big customer that is doing something exciting with some of the new technologies you guys have in terms of accelerating things?
Yeah, very good time for that question. We talked about cloud and all the future and the DERs and maybe hydrogen out there, but very close now from a time perspective. In April, we have 4 large utilities here in the US going live with our solution, both for meter to cash as well as the customer experience. So you can imagine that is requiring quite a bit of attention to make sure this is successful. All in all, we seeing on even one weekend we have 3 going on at the same time. But in the course of April, I think we will have 10 million contracts now then being built through SAP, customers being served through the SAP software. So this is reminding us at SAP every day how important our work is to make sure this works, that our utilities can continue to support their customers, the trust they're putting in us, that these solutions work, and that keeps us going every day to look for the new technology, whether it's on the cloud, whether it's out in the edge, to make sure our solutions are ready, whatever regulators or customers or utilities want to throw at us, wherever they want to take this market, this energy networks.
Yeah. Johnny, any closing thoughts on where we're heading? And I'm so excited for you and business models in general. I mean, it's a kid in the candy store.
Absolutely. If we go and everybody would come into your program that we're having here in a few months, then that's the job. Our job is to look at how cloud computing, with all of the things that go with that, all the security, because that is what we will be about in the future until it changes. So it's exciting to have SAP here because like the utilities, I'm a statistician myself, and it makes the world tend to go around. But we have to pay attention to not just the technologies, the application of business models to those technologies, or as we call it, technology transfer. So it's a great time to think about business models and to generate business models. And there will be new business models in the future, and we want to make sure that Americans are right out front with those business models.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here today. Stefan, thank you for your time and your insights and sharing, and much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. It was great to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. Johnny, I'm going to ask you to pull the guitar, but all I'm thinking is Tesla is betting on Bitcoin. They're saying that the world of digital currency is going to happen through Bitcoin, and they're going to be, you know, a big leader in that space. Bitcoin is going through the roof, doubling in value in the last 6 months. Apple is going to get into the car business. Google is going to be an energy provider. Amazon is going to become a bank. I mean, my goodness, where are we heading?
Well, just remember when everybody invested in Austin in the .com, we had gotomeeting.com, we had let's eat some breakfast.com, and we created a bubble by investing in the .com. So we got to be careful with the 299. I want you to know, Stefan, that I'm bringing all this to handle out for you.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Otherwise, it'd have been Willie Nelson. I just want to let you know.
Thank you much.
They say
Thank you very much.
They say the arts are in trouble in Austin, and they said, but Willie had 10 million at his concert last night. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you much. Thank